What's up, Geminites? It's your boy GemMint. Today we're going to talk about statue terminology, including premium format, quarter scale, maquette, comiquette, and more. So stay tuned. Alright guys, this might be a video for some of our newer collectors, but I've had a lot of requests in the comments, and I thought it would just be a good video to have out there. We're going to talk about some of the different statue terminology, and we're going to break it down what each thing means, so you guys will have a better idea. First thing I'm going to talk about is scale. You hear us use the term quarter scale or 1/4 scale a lot, and that is the most common statue type that you see on this channel. What that means is, if I was 6 feet tall, I would be 72 inches tall. 1/4 of that, so if you divide that by 4, would be 18 inches. So if I was made into a quarter scale statue, I would be 18 inches tall. So most quarter scale statues will be anywhere from about 15 to 20 inches, depending on the size of the base and if the character is kind of crouched down or whatever. If it was 1/3 scale, that means that 6-foot person would be 24 inches in a 1/3 scale statue. And if you want to talk 1/6, you're going to be about 12 inches. So that's what we mean when we say quarter scale or 1/4 scale. Whatever the height of that character divided by 4. With that being said, Sideshow Collectibles has made their own terminology up for those type of lines. Their quarter scale line is called premium format. So when Sideshow says something is a premium format, it's a quarter scale piece, and typically it has kind of a simple base and kind of like a museum pose. A good example of premium format would be the Daniel Bell Captain America. Like I said, small footprint of a base, got one leg up usually. That's kind of what we call museum. Captain Morgan with his foot up on the barrel. Now, when a character has a little bit more of a dynamic pose and the base is more elaborate and it kind of has some more engineering involved, Sideshow will call that a maquette. So a good example of a maquette will be the Thanos on throne. He's not just standing on a small base with 1 foot up. He has a huge throne piece, which is kind of like a whole other statue in itself. And these usually are a little bit more expensive. Another good example is the Rogue maquette. You can see she doesn't even have her feet on the ground. She's kind of keyed in by her arm. She's got this big danger room piece coming out of the ground. She's mid-air, and it's more involved than just your typical premium format. And like I said, that's why they cost a little bit more. Now, what's confusing about this is that Sideshow has kind of changed the meaning of their maquettes from what they were in the past. In the past, they had maquettes. It could have been quarter scale. It could be 1/5 scale. For example, the Hulk vs. Wolverine diorama is considered a maquette, but it's not quarter scale like Thanos on Throne or Rogue. It's really a diorama. And to add to the confusion, before they started using the term maquette, they had a term called comiquette. And that one gets a little bit more confusing because you have, for example, the Sideshow Hobgoblin comiquette, which is 1/5 scale, but it is more dynamic. He has a glider. There's this smoke base. His positioning is definitely not a museum pose. And then you have their Silver Surfer comiquette, which is 1/4 scale, but it also has more involved than like a typical premium format. Lastly, and this is also something that was kind of from the older days of Sideshow, a maquette would be used for a character that wouldn't be a normal human size, like Galactus here. Galactus isn't 6 feet tall, but this maquette is about 30 inches tall, which would make him more of like a 1/3 scale piece. But 1/3 scale of Galactus would be much bigger in real life. A lot of people would say comiquettes or maquettes or premium format had to do with whether or not the statue had mixed media on it, whether it had actual fabric clothing. But in this day and age, you see both maquettes and premium formats with mixed media. Rogue has a leather jacket. Gladiator Hulk has mixed media, and he's a premium format. As far as other companies, they're a little bit more straightforward. XM Studios has the 1/4 scale line that they do for Marvel. Like most recently, I unboxed their Star-Lord statue. Then they have their 1/6 DC line. 1/6 scale. It's pretty straightforward. What they did with that line, though, is actually use that to have bigger and more elaborate bases, like with their Flash or their Green Lantern, which was just unveiled. And then you have companies like Prime One Studio. Prime One really specializes in the 1/3 scale market. They have a lot of Batman 1/3s, the Arkham line, plus they have Dark Knight lines. They did do a couple of quarter scale statues through Sideshow with the Spider-Man Marvel license, like Spider-Man 2099, Anti-Venom, and Venom. But they were definitely more like what a maquette would be if it was produced by Sideshow, if that makes any sense. So I hope that kind of clears up what the differences are between a premium format, a maquette, a comiquette. I know it's a little muddy, but in this day and age, when it comes to those, premium formats are their regular quarter scale line. Maquettes are more dynamic and that have more involvement in the base. And that's really just for Sideshow. Those other lines are pretty straightforward, like I said. Let me know if you have any questions about statues in the comments below. Any suggestions for other types of videos like this that you guys want me to make. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Stay minty fresh. Peace.